Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, guys, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this afternoon we have Preston Edwards with the law firm of Dummit, Fradin. And the firm is located in South Carolina? I know you are.
It's actually located in Greensboro, North Carolina. We also have offices in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and High Point, North Carolina.
Oh, okay, excellent, good. Well, anyway, welcome to the show. Good to have you.
Good to be here.
So just to kick off with the theme of the show here, Latte with a Lawyer, what's your morning beverage of choice?
I am a straight black coffee with some honey in it kind of guy. I gotta have at least 2 cups of coffee to function in the morning. So
good, excellent, good.
Yeah.
With honey though, I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, I've got terrible allergies, so I buy local honey from a farmer's market, and I use it in my coffee to help with the allergies.
Huh. So that's your sugar substitute.
Yeah, I don't like using the sugar. I try to do as little sugar as possible across the board. So
yeah,
honey,
me too.
I love honey. I love that it comes from bees, made by the earth.
Nice. I have to try that. I'm gonna have to give that one a try.
It's delicious.
Okay, cool. So I'm reading your background here. I see that you're a criminal defense attorney. So tell us about your work.
Yeah, so I'm a criminal defense attorney. Been doing it for about 2 years now. Essentially, I do anything from misdemeanors to DWIs to serious felonies. I've got a couple jury trials coming up in the next month on some things like possession of a firearm by a felon, things of that nature. I mean, as really anything that I can get my hands on. We try to focus on cases that are going to have a triable disposition at Dummit Fradin. So anything where I can go to trial, there's some sort of issue or with the case, we look for those.
Oh, really? Oh, so you want to be in the courtroom? You want to go to trial?
Yeah. I go to, I from what I know, a lot of defense attorneys in the world, it's a lot of pleas. And when you're working in, public defenders, court appointed, it's not necessarily that there's no other options, but most of that work is going to be your probation violations, your indigent clients who really, their choices are, do I stay in here or do I plea and get out kind of thing. So when you're not doing that type of work, a lot of it is focused on trials. So we try to focus on that.
Oh, good. And when you take a case, I mean, are you picking it based on what you think, if you think you're going to have a good outcome, or you take it?
No, I mean, we take any case. I mean, if it's going to be a plea, we take it as well. But more so, I'm just trying to give people every opportunity. If there is an opportunity, I want to identify it and let them know, there's a legal defect in your case. There's something we can do here for you. And those are the cases that I enjoy. Those are the ones I enjoy the most. At my heart, I love going to trial. I'm a big fan of going to trial. It's probably one of my favorite things. So that's really it.
So you said just a couple of years. Are you just getting started with your career?
Yeah, pretty much. I started actually. I'm a little older. I came to law a little later. I was a freight broker in Charlotte for a couple of years, Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Came to law school at 27. I actually went into commercial real estate for 2 years before that. So I worked as a executive at a commercial real estate company here in Greensboro. I had some experiences with COVID, which we will get into a little bit later, but
okay.
That led me to becoming a criminal defense attorney, and I fell in love with it. And so kind of just have dived head first, excuse me.
Oh, interesting. Wait, so were you doing other types of law before you started the criminal law?
The commercial real estate.
You went from commercial real estate into criminal law. Okay. Well, I mean, 27 is not so late. I mean,
yeah, well, It felt a little bit later,
Yeah.
I'm in law school. I'm surrounded by 22-year-olds that just came out of college.
Oh, they go right from college to law. That doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't think it does. I could tell a discernible difference in the people that, went to get some professional experience first and then went to law school versus the people that just went straight from college to law school. And I would certainly recommend getting some professional experience going to law school for anyone considering it. It is a professional school and you will need to be a professional to succeed there. So.
Well, not only that, you have some perspective. I mean, to me, that makes complete sense. I did an MBA program, and there's a huge difference between someone that's actually worked versus someone that just went right from an English major to business school.
Yeah, pretty dramatic difference.
Oh, huge difference. I mean, you're much more productive. You get a lot more to add if you've been in the real world and have seen things operate business. So
yeah.
So most students go straight to law school. Is that the norm?
I would say that's the norm. About 80% of the class that I graduated with was straight from university to law school.
No kidding.
And yeah, it just seems to be the norm in general for attorneys. A lot of these are legacy attorneys. I'm the first person in my family to ever become an attorney. So it's a little bit, I think there's just a little bit different expectations sometimes when you come from certain backgrounds. And usually you see those kind of legacy attorneys come up.
Got it.
Straight from college.
Yeah, maybe you're talking about like the big sort of white shoe law firms. Maybe you see more of that kind of stuff. I was on the phone with someone earlier today, and they had also worked in another industry and then went back to law school. But so you're the first. I see you're originally from New Jersey. I see. So tell me about that whole journey. Like you said, you're the first in your family to be a lawyer. Like, how did that happen? Tell me that story.
Yeah. So my mother's side of the family was farmers. My grandfather's still a farmer till this day in southern New Jersey. Kind of, if you know where the side of Jersey that juts under Philadelphia, we're right there. My mom, when we were about 7, there was unfortunately, southern New Jersey isn't the most affluent of places. And so we lived in a house where my father had asked a man to stop selling drugs on the corner, and he killed our dog. So we decided, well, maybe New Jersey is not the place for us. And so when I was about 7, we moved down to South Carolina. And I grew up in Clemson, South Carolina from 7 until I finished college at Clemson. And then from there, I went to Charlotte, did freight brokering for some time, started my own freight brokerage for a little bit. And then once, my heart wasn't in it, I felt like I needed to do something real that wasn't just for money. And so I went to law school. And then immediately took a commercial real estate job. So I don't know how much I improved on the situation, but a lot of that is what eventually led me to becoming a criminal defense attorney. So.
Oh, interesting. So I never thought of, I'm from New England. I never thought of southern New Jersey as like a dangerous place. I mean,
yeah, it when you get around like Camden and Pennsville, the sort of suburban areas of Philadelphia, it is actually more of a large criminal hotbed than a lot of people would expect. There was a point in the 90s where Camden, New Jersey was the gang capital of the world. So.
Well, Camden, Camden, sure. That's
so Camden near Pennsville. I mean, they're kind of all that little just stretch of unfortunately depressed areas as a result of societal shifts in the 80s and 90s. So it just got bad there for a little bit, and we left. And a lot of my family's still there, and they've kind of retreated back to the rural areas, but they're doing fine. So
good. Yeah. Actually, my son is a freshman at talk about dangerous, geez, in Philly. He's at Drexel.
Oh man.
And it's been pretty bad there as of, I don't know if you've been reading about it, but crime is much more ubiquitous these days there.
Yeah, there was that Philadelphia public defender that got elected as the district attorney there, and a lot of those, I am a defense attorney, and I believe that people need justice and that people need to have adequate representation, but it's an adversarial system for a reason.
Right.
There are people that commit crimes, and those people, they're not always the best people. And I know, every criminal defense attorney in the world will tell you that. I mean, obviously there's some bleeding hearts that just don't believe that crime exists, but there are real considerations that you have to do when you're thinking like a person enforcing state power. And, sometimes I feel the most dyed-in-the-wool defense attorneys will, if they get in the power of a district attorney, the person who's enforcing the law, they will, de-escalate those law enforcement standards. They'll bring it down. And as a result, people see that and they act accordingly. So I am not a person who looks at the district attorney as an enemy. I do think that we are adversaries when we're in the courtroom, and I'll defend my clients to the absolute extent of whatever their legal threshold is allowable. Whatever
Sure.
I can do to help my client within the bounds of the legal rules, I will do. But you can't get into the thing where we're enemies. The police, defense attorneys, and prosecutors, they're not enemies, or it's a single unit. It's the justice system.
It's a
And
system.
how we,
Sure.
yeah. And if defense attorneys don't operate the right way, it doesn't work. And if prosecutors don't operate the right way, it doesn't work. And so I think that you're seeing a lot of those impacts in Philadelphia now.
Yeah. In fact, it's interesting. I actually sent an email to the president on Friday night because I heard, right in front of the gym on whatever the main street is that goes to Drexel, there was like a stabbing, a robbery.
Wow.
And that was, there have been a couple incidents of that. He responded back to me 10:30 p.m.
Yeah.
that night. So they're trying, I said, what's your plan? So they are trying to add resources and, hire. I mean, I know there's a real shortage of police officers given all the things that have happened over the last few years, and they're trying to beef up the security. I mean, you can't be a student and worry about, going to the gym and having somebody pull a knife on you.
Yeah. No,
That
I
doesn't
feel like
work.
we're careening toward a reign of chaos sometimes, but it goes and the pendulum swings one way and the pendulum swings back, and
Yeah.
eventually people will see, okay, we've gone a little too far this way. We kind of need to readjust, because there's people in like San Francisco that will go and rob a car and nobody will do anything because they
Right.
didn't break a threshold of an amount that the police are even able to enforce anymore. And it's just like, well, we can't do that.
Right.
People have rights. Those car owners have rights, just like the criminals have, or, alleged criminals, defendants have rights. Every single person has rights. And so we have to have a balance between, protecting society and protecting the individual. And that's really what the adversarial system that we're a part of does, or is supposed to do.
Yeah. Both sides are, and you meet in the middle and you come up with something that should be reasonable. So no, I totally agree with you. So you kind of hinted about it, why you became a defense attorney, and you mentioned COVID. I mean, is there a reason that sort of drove you there?
Well, I've always been about helping people. I think, I apologize for the dog, but
That's okay.
you always have different things in your life that sort of influence you. And I was an Eagle Scout and I was in the Army, and I've always felt that public service and helping people was kind of my main driver. It's just something that it gets me going in the morning. And so when I took the commercial real estate job, it was an executive level position. And for me, coming from a farming background where, I didn't have much growing up, to, an executive level position at a real estate company, that was like the pinnacle of my career to that day. And it was a great day. And the problem was I got that job in March of 2020.
Okay.
And March, 15th,
literally
2020, shut the world down. So guess who got, I got stuck with the entire COVID response for this 500 person corporation. So, anything that does with COVID, the employment COVID stuff, it was a commercial real estate company. So the landlord tenant COVID stuff, anything that touched any COVID regulation or anything was my purview at that time, including evictions. And as a person who, I pride myself on being able to help people, evictions isn't that.
Right.
I understand it's an important part of a process of running a real estate business, but that's not something that I signed up for really when I took the job. And so what it was there was this one girl, she was a student at Chapel Hill, and she called us one day to get a solution. We were working out payment agreements so that people could stay in their apartments during this time, because you can't evict them. You really just want them to stay, and you're just trying to get whatever rent that you can get at that point. And she calls and she says, hey, I got COVID, I've got to go home. We're like, all right, that's fine, you go home. Well, she ends up giving COVID to both of her parents, and both of her parents died. And 6-7 months goes on, the eviction restrictions start to lift, and I'm in the legal position where I'm a fiduciary for the company. I have to do what's best for them, and I have to order the eviction on this girl. And the next day, I'm not kidding you, the next day I got COVID, and I had COVID for 26 days. I ended up in the emergency room coughing up blood. And so I was like, you know what? That's a clear sign. I don't want to get too spiritual, but that's a clear sign from the universe that whatever you're doing is not the right thing. And so decided to do criminal defense.
Wow.
And I fell in love with it, and I'll probably do this for the rest of my career. So
interesting. So much for the myth that if you're young and healthy that you can't get sick from COVID.
No, it was one of the worst, the worst illness that I've ever had.
I'm sure.
It started off like a light cough. It wasn't anything. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. And then about day 5, this just crushing fatigue came in, and there was just nothing I could do. So it was,
wow.
It was serious, and I got hit with the Delta wave. So it was,
you got the first
serious
wave. You got the first wave of it. So that was the strongest, right?
Yeah.
Were you intubated too? Did you go to the hospital?
There was no, I never got intubated. Thankfully, the blood that I was coughing up was from irritation of just having coughed so much, rather than the, COVID had gotten into your lungs and started, decaying the lung tissue kind of thing. I was as fortunate as I could be with having to go to the emergency room, but I called my physician, and she was like, hey, you need to go to the emergency room now. So I was very fortunate in that regard, but it took 6-7 months to even recover from it. So it was a tough disease.
Oh boy. And you fully recovered? Fully recovered?
Yeah. Now, actually, after I got the 3rd booster shot was really when my recovery finalized. After the reaction from the booster shot, probably the next 2 days I was clear, and the fatigue was gone. It was kind of fascinating, to be honest with you.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
I just got the 2nd booster a couple of weeks ago. I mean, I had a relatively mild dose of it, but still wasn't fun. So I can't imagine having, what you went through. It's a pretty scary time at the beginning.
It was scary, but I feel like I learned from it. I took what I felt was important to me from that sort of experience where, unfortunately, as a younger man, I had to face that brief question of, what if, what if this is the end of my time? Do I want what I was remembered for to be evicting people from their houses, and it just wasn't. And that question was so resoundingly answered for me that I was able to really commit myself to this kind of work. So
yeah, that's a great story. Actually, I'm glad you shared that. That's a real genuine, honest story. So I appreciate that. So you're helping. It's funny. I'm reading the book Just Mercy right now, Brian Stevenson.
Oh yeah.
Have you read that?
I have. It was actually required reading for my law school. So.
Oh, interesting. I mean,
yeah.
Talk about awful, heartbreaking stuff. I mean, geez.
Yeah, it's funny. I went into law school envisioning being a prosecutor. And then after my experiences in law school, reading Just Mercy, which is how many times it's gotten wrong.
Right.
How many
Right.
times we put someone who did nothing in jail. And I just felt that, a lot of the talent of attorneys go to be a DA, and, not a ton of people want to do the defense work.
Yeah.
And so, I felt like I have skills that are translatable. I have speaking ability. I can go and do what I can to help as many people as I can and because the state has so much power, there's never going to be a limited pool of state power in America. I mean, they
Right.
can pretty much do whatever they want. And so, just being someone that's willing to stand in the way of a sword falling on somebody, I feel like being that person for a lot of people is a worthy aspiration, something I want to do. So
Yeah. Good man. I like to hear that. So what are the skills you think that you have or that you need to be a good, effective defense attorney?
I think probably one of the more untangible things is audacity. There are a lot of people with a lot on the line.
Right.
And when you challenge certain things, people don't like that, especially when it's an elected an elected person or someone who has some public accountability. They don't enjoy those things. For instance, I've got a case right now. It's a felony possession of a firearm by a felon. All right, my client was convicted back in '93, right? Under the 1993 North Carolina statute, he's entitled to a restoration of his right to possess a firearm after 5 years by operation of law. It just happens automatically.
Yep.
Right. Well, in '95, they passed a law taking that away. And so basically I'm challenging whether he's even, he should be allowed to have the right at this point, because he was convicted at a time when he had a path back that was an automatic restoration after 5 years. Now the path back is a 20-year waiting period where you have to file a petition. And it's not even guaranteed at that point that you'll get your right to own a firearm back. And so the dramatic difference in that, I have to challenge it. I have to challenge the fact that they're applying this law ex post facto, but people really don't like that kind of thing. That's, to them, that is trying to get someone who's been convicted of a crime to be allowed to own a firearm. But that's just not the way I see it. He had, when he pled guilty, he had a panoply of rights that was guaranteed to him at that time. And he gets those. And you can't come back and change the law afterwards to punish him more harshly. We have made a constitution for that. So when you do challenges like that, people don't like it. And you're going to have to be willing to say, I don't care that you don't like it. This is what we wrote down. This is what the law is. And we have to agree on this.
Was your client in prison, served prison time?
He did. Yeah. He served a sentence. He was released in like 1998.
Okay. So he served his time. And again, according to what was in place at the time, he's entitled to have his rights restored. Okay. I get that.
Yeah. And has been a model citizen ever since. It's not like this guy has been out there committing crimes. 93 was the last one he got. And he hasn't done anything since then.
Sure.
Other than, work at a steel mill and pay his taxes. So, he did everything society asked him to. And now because of a statute that was passed after his conviction, they're trying to get him with another crime. So, it's just things like that where you feel the necessity to stand up and say something. That's hard to do. Making that sort of claim, trying to push that sort of legal challenge, there is a lot of pushback there. People don't want to consider things like that.
Yeah. In North Carolina, I mean, you're in a conservative jurisdiction too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's purple here. I practice in 3 counties. I practice in Guilford County, Alamance County, and Randolph County here. And 2 of those are conservative bastions. Haven't voted a blue person in since, I don't know, JFK. It's been a long time.
Right.
So, but they're conservative, and Guilford is the complete opposite. It's one of the more liberal places in the world.
Is it really? Oh, is that where Davidson is, the university?
No, that's where UNC, University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and North Carolina
Okay, university. I
A&T.
figured university town. Okay.
Yeah, but you know, Greensboro, North Carolina is where the sit-in movement started for the civil rights movement. So there's always been a very liberal bend to this area, and that usually comes out in the wash, where you know you do have more liberal policies. But unfortunately, you know, as far as possession of a firearm by a felon, they are not willing to, you know, that's one of the few places where state power and the liberal ideology actually mesh, where, you know, liberals do not generally want guns out on the street, and, you know, if they have the ability to prevent that, they will. So even though this isn't a more liberal area, it's not going to be enforced liberally, so to speak.
Yeah. Got it. And that's going to be a jury trial, I assume, right?
Yes, it will be a jury trial. If my motion's not granted, it's a pretrial motion to dismiss based on the ex post facto law. You know, realistically, I don't think it goes through. I mean, you know, I think that I'm right. I think that if I appeal it, an appeals court will go my way, but a superior court judge is going to be very hesitant to find that sort of thing. But we'll see. You know, I'm hopeful. I do think that the law is on my side, but sometimes that's not always what is the key indicia to make a decision on. So to speak.
So in the event that your motion is not granted and you go to jury trial, I mean, then it comes down to the jury, right? And your ability to persuade the jury, right? So how do you go through that process? Some of your process for preparing.
So, you know, persuasion is a lot about, especially in the context of a trial, you know, it's more about how to get this person to say the right things, you know, how to get this person to say the evidence that I know exists, but they might not necessarily want to say, especially in the context of a police officer, where, you know, in this case, they have a real issue with being able to prove possession, right? They never saw my guy with any firearms. They never saw him touch any firearms. They don't have any fingerprints on any firearms. It's very, as far as factually goes, more or less one of the weaker possession cases that I've seen. So, you know, with all that being said, you basically have to get the jury to have doubts about, you know, whether he ever possessed the firearm, whether he knew there was firearms there. That's the real crux of this matter. And so when you're trying to persuade someone about that, and you focus first on the state's witnesses, right? So they're going to have police officers, they're going to have people there that are going to testify against your client. How do I cross-examine them in such a way that the jury would doubt what they had to say, or the jury would find some sort of reasonable ability to, you know, find a line of their reasoning and doesn't make sense to them? And then when you put on evidence for the defense, you're really trying to humanize the defendant. And it's a special line here, because if you introduce character evidence about a defendant, you open up a huge opportunity for the state to come in and present counter character evidence. And so you both have to, one, humanize your client without actually saying anything really about your client's character. And so in this case, you know, the situation is actually very sympathetic. And I don't know if you want me to go into the whole situation at this point.
No, it's okay. I mean,
he's a very sympathetic defendant.
Sure.
And so, you know, I'm going to put up evidence from his family members and things like that, that would, you know, have a jury believing that, yes, there is a reasonable way that this person didn't know that there was a firearm there and had no reasonable possession of it. So it is a skill. It's something that I'm still developing, candidly. I mean, as we've discussed, I'm sort of at the beginning of my career. But I have done, you know, a substantial amount of work. I've represented Class C felonies. I've represented, you know, I haven't done any murders yet, but, you know, I feel like I've got enough of a view of what I'm doing that understanding how to persuade people has become almost second nature. You know, understanding how to provoke questions from people has become more, you know, I've become more acclimated to that sort of thought process. Yeah.
Got it. Do you go through mock trials and focus groups to help you prepare?
No, not really. We haven't done anything that serious. That would be something I would do if you're going into like a murder trial, like something huge, capital offenses of that nature.
Yeah.
I haven't touched something like that yet. So while I do expect to do things like that in the future, that's not something I've personally done, but
Yeah.
we've had, for our immigration team, they just had an appellate case that went up, and they did oral arguments on that appellate case. So we did a moot court for that sort of appellate case. So,
Okay.
we are a general firm that's focused on litigation, and so we do help each other out a lot whenever someone needs some additional practice or things like that. So.
Got it. Do you attend any of these like trial lawyers university, trial college? Go to any of those?
I am signed up for the North Carolina Defense Trial College for the next year. I haven't done anything like that. I did moot court in law school. That was very helpful for getting sort of the litigation chops going.
Yep.
And then really, I came in and within my first month, I started trying bench trials at my current firm. So, this was something I took very seriously from the beginning. And I think that they noticed that. And so they gave me a lot more leeway to go out and just learn on my own. So, I've only been doing this for 2 years, but I think I'm on like 23, 24 trials already, which is a very high rate for a defense attorney.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
How many other people in the firm are doing defense work like you?
The two primary partners do defense work. And then one other person in my office does, and then 2 other people. So I think we're looking at a total of 7 defense attorneys across the entire firm.
Yeah.
For criminal defense. So.
Okay. How many total attorneys in the firm?
I think there's 24, 25 now.
Okay.
Yeah, there's as I said, most of the attorneys at the firm are family law attorneys. A few of them are immigration attorneys, plus the small civil department. So
Got it.
law. Yeah.
Okay. So you went to wait, you said again, you're in Greensboro, right? You're not at.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Clemson. So I graduated from there, moved up to Greensboro to go to Elon Law, which is here in downtown.
Oh, yeah. Elon. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. That's an interesting university, isn't it? Elon.
It is actually. They're doing a lot of things with like pioneering.
Very practical, right?
Yes. Yeah. They did a residency program where, we'll get into the exploitation side of law if you want to, but you do a residency program where you essentially pay to go to school, and you basically go do an internship that's provided by the school. And it was actually one of the more incredible experiences I had in law school. I got to go to a large civil litigation firm that was doing huge contract cases and, huge class action suits and things like that. So it was a fascinating look into that type of like high level civil law that I would have never gotten without that, because they don't do internship programs, but they were happy to do a residency program, which was strange, but either way, it was a great experience. And I think that sort of practical focus and application is going to be the future of law schools. I think it's going to be a lot more like the doctor model, where it's not just 3 years of you go and you study this esoteric law from the 1700s. It's, hey, this is what we actually do on a daily basis. You're going to see this constantly by the time you graduate. So I think they are pioneering a lot in that sort of.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I did an MBA program at Northeastern, which has that cooperative program where you work 6 months as part of the graduate program. I think they do the same thing in the law school.
Yes. Yeah. They do. Yeah. My brother-in-law went to Northeastern, but
okay. Yeah.
So in this case, they do the residency, they do a lot of other practical things. They constantly, they have their bar tested courses, your torts, your civil procedure, things like that. But then they also have specific bar classes for how to pass the bar that you have to take. And so it's not only teaching you the actual law, it's not only focusing on the practical aspects of how you do law, but it's also focusing on, hey, we know that there's a big test that you have to pass, and we're going to constantly hammer that content on you. So they've done a lot as far as really trying to improve their scholastic performance. For when I went there, they had some troubles with bar passage rates, but by the time they really got their program cranking, they were up at 80-90% by the time I left. So it's been a dramatic improvement, and they're doing a fantastic job there. And I think that not only the 2.5-year program that they have, it's an accelerated program, plus the practical experience. It was a great experience for me.
I love it. That sounds terrific.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I think that's the way to go, as opposed to, as you said, the esoteric law from the 1700s. Like, you gotta get into the real world, right? It's okay to have that foundation, but when you're out in the real world practicing whatever it is, it's very different than
for sure.
Textbook, right?
Dramatically different. I mean, the act of law school is so different from the practice of law that I came out and I was like, how are these two even remotely connected? And they weren't. They weren't, really. What I do every day as a criminal defense attorney has nothing to do with what I learned about criminal defense in law school. So
really, that's kind of a shame to hear that. I mean, there's that much of a gap. I mean,
it's sort of like when you're going to law school, you're learning a new language.
Yeah.
You're starting from zero, most people at least.
Right.
And so it's such a wide ocean that they're basically starting with a few grains of sand because of how complex, like deep and complex a lot of these concepts are. And so once you get out in law school, you realize, I have to focus on one of these because these oceans are so deep and vast in every single area that there's just no way I'm going to be able to be competent in multiple.
Right.
And so that's really, I don't think that it's a problem where people are creating a problem. They're just teaching you what they want to teach you. I think it's a problem of there's so much to teach. There's so much to know about the law that they have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that esoteric old stuff, kind of got to know where we were before you know where we are, before you know where we're going, kind of thing. So I do, obviously things like intent and, those types of things, causation, are incredibly important concepts that law school teaches that you wouldn't be able to get anywhere else. But I don't think about causation anymore, because I learned about causation. You can look at something and be like, all right, well, there's causation. I know exactly what I'm talking about. In law school, you spend most of your time trying to talk about whether there's causation or something like that. You don't do any of that in real world.
Yeah. Well, you're getting a foundation and a way of thinking, and a way of approaching things where, as you said, you're getting a much broader foundation. And then when you get in the real world, then you pick an area of law that you really have to focus on and get very, very precise on. Yeah. That makes sense to me, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's, as I said, I'm the first lawyer in my family's history, and I feel it's been a great honor for me to come do these types of things as far as, being an attorney. And I loved law school. I really did. I thought it was one of the more, mentally challenging things on the entire, human condition throughout, the entirety of human history. And I felt like a huge weight of, a moment of accomplishment when I finished. And, but it almost became an addiction. I don't know the right word, I guess, but law becomes something that I think about every single moment of every single day.
Wow.
And that's both a problem sometimes, but it's also, it makes me feel like I chose, you never know if you choose the right path in life, but it makes me feel like I chose the right path sometimes.
Excellent. So on that note, let's close it down. It was a really interesting discussion, and just final words that you want people to know about your law firm and you, and best way to connect.
Well, my law firm is, in my opinion, one of the great law firms in our area. We go the extra mile to try to make sure that whatever outcome that we get for a client is the best that we could have done. No matter what it is, even if it's a guilty plea, was that guilty plea the absolute best thing that we could have accomplished? And that's the focus of the law firm. And I've loved that from the first minute that I got there. As far as me, I really just want people to know that I'm just trying to help people. You know, at the end of the day, I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I want to help the people that come before me as much as I can. And that's pretty much it. I really
Excellent.
appreciate the opportunity to come here today, and I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, no, thank you. So for everybody, once again, Preston Edwards with Dummit Fradin in North Carolina, South Carolina. You got both covered, or just
They
North
should just be the same state, but no,
They should be the
just
same.
North Carolina. Yeah, just North Carolina, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, High Point area. So
Okay, good. Excellent. Good. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform. And we help litigators like yourself prepare for mediation and jury trials. So thank you very much. Really interesting conversation. Thanks, Preston.
thank you. Have a good one.